Spider's back. Sorry, I didn't want to leave you like hanging like that. You know, I mean, I had to rush the ending, and I want to talk about the mess and the convoluting ratio situation. It was a mess for me even try to talk about it in such short time. So I'd like to go over it a little more. What was done in the CBA and how bad it is. And it's going to be a disaster for the CFL, and I want to get into that. I have some strong backlight coming in there from the octagon that could offset, okay, the exposure and the lighting, but I have some tungsten lighting. I mix them with the ambient lighting here, but I have to watch it. But I'll keep watching the monitor here. But anyway, this is a bit of a different setting from the one where I'm doing a full set because I can't zoom in as much because I have so much to, and I don't have enough room on that side with the camera to go back, okay? So go through the window. So anyway, this is a smaller set, but oh, I see. Yeah, it's okay. It's so far so good. All right, let's getting back. I meant to say and it's true, all the professional leagues, all the majority, if not all the professional leagues, and that's the NFL, of course, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, NHL, yes, even MLS soccer, okay, and even the Premier League, soccer league, the big soccer league in Europe, those Premier Leagues. I mean, yes, in England they have, and in the Premier Leagues they have like their best home ground total. They have like a roster spots for them, like. But they're not forced to start them. There's no guaranteed ratio to start them like in the CFL, which is just unbelievable. And what's so disturbing about this, and why my son's so upset, he's going to walk away, he can't blame him, and I'm going to keep my promise that I'm going to keep pushing my CFL Red-Zone Rule and try to get it out there. I have a plan I talked about last session. As long as I'm alive, you know, with this condition I have, I don't know, I'm going in for some digital x-ray that's that's really going to show a lot on June 17th, because it's been going on almost 17 weeks now. So, and I'm not good, okay, and for that amount of time I'm not healing enough, and it's going to take me a lot more time. So I don't know what's going to happen to me in my health. As long as I'm alive, I'm going to keep pushing my CFL Red-Zone Rule, okay? And as long as the CFL is in business. But my son is going to cancel his, after 15 years, he's going to cancel his season tickets after this year for two reasons. Mainly because of the way they treat my CFL Red-Zone Rule, okay? Mr. Ambrosi said it was going to be, promised me, I have the email, I could actually read you the email, and I think I will next session when I do a series. I will read you that email. It says, oh, prohibited to, I mean, I haven't sent it to anybody but my son, but I'm going to read it, okay, for what they've done to me. And I'm going to read it to you. I'll show it to you, too. And I'm not afraid to read because of what they did to me. Because Mr. Ambrosi, the commissioner, said, I mean, I worked, like my son said, countless hours in my CFL Red Zone for over 5.5 years in my 3.5-year survey I did as well. And he promises me that it's going to be presented to the Innovation Rules Committee in 2020. Okay, because of the canceled season and the shortened 2021, it got, it got postponed until this year, and he was going to present it to the, promised me, present it to the CFL Innovation Rules Committee, and then it would go to the main CFL Rules Committee, and because of pompousness and huge ego and jealousy, and because it didn't come out in my CFL Red-Zone Rule themselves, and they didn't want to be outdone by a CFL fan that did, they deliberately trashed it and didn't even look at it, because it's far superior than any one of their Mickey Mouse minor little tweaks of 9 new rule changes and their embarrassing Mickey Mouse gimmicky little hashmark rule that Mark Trustman calls a distraction, only a distraction, because they don't want to really, they're covering up what's really wrong with the CFL, and he says it's such a minor little alteration that it was never needed in the CFL, by the way, by the star quarterbacks in the CFL, because they were throwing touchdowns on both sidelines, downfield, long passes down both sidelines for long passes, and in the middle of the field, long passes, big touchdown passes, all over the field for touchdowns. And Huffmingle was the guy that came up with it, and he's a hypocrite because he voted to go to 4-down football. They had a vote to go to 4-down football. Okay, he voted for it. So the Toronto Argonauts, I don't, their organization, and wasn't surprised at that. But Huffmingle, then he scrambles. He's pushed in the corner, and he's exposed for what he did. He tried to, abolish our 3-down game. Okay, of CFL 3-down game of football. It's over 100 years, and now the 109th Grey Cup would be in Regina this year. So, I mean, our tradition, our Grey Cup, try to abolish all of it, okay, and our 3-down game of professional football. And I think that's the key, the word professional. I'm going to get back to that word again. And that's why what's happening with the CBA and the Canadian ratio and their little minor, embarrassing little rule changes on their hashmark rule, that's a joke. They'll be throwing more small little passes now because, by the way, the number is 4 on each side. That's what it is. Okay, narrowed by 4 yards on each side. So they'll be throwing even more little passes sideways. Okay, first and second down to try to get a first down to keep the ball marching downfield with boring little sideways passes because they can get it out there. It's a shorter distance to get it out there, so you're going to even see smaller passes, and they're going to be even more 2-and-outs, okay? Seriously, because that's what they did before, and it's even going to be worse. It's horrible what's going on. The one of my son wants to pack it in, and he's walking away. I mean, his best friends, they don't go to CFL games. They only watch the NFL because of the Canadian ratio. And by who I said last time, they're all fascinated by my CFL Red-Zone Rule, blown away by it. Okay, my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule. And by the way, one thing I wanted to mention last time that I forgot to mention, the importance of my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule in the red zone in relation to downs, that 3rd down that is needed, okay, in the CFL, because in the red zone, because of 51% of an average percentage of touchdowns, I'll go over it as well in 2021. That's all it was. I'll go back to that in a second. But the thing is, in the red zone in the game of football, in the NFL, 4 downs is too many downs. It's too easy to get a touchdown with 4 downs. If they get a first down in the red zone, they get 4 tries, and then most times they have 3 tries. It's just too many downs, okay? The ideal number of downs in the red zone to score a touchdown is 3 downs. Not 2-down football stops, like repetitive stops in the red zone, the CFL, like you see now. That's why there's only 51% of an average percentage of touchdown scored in the red zone in 2021. 51%, one of the lowest ever, averages ever, amongst 9 CFL teams. That's insane because there's too many repetitive 2-down football stops, which makes it too few downs, okay, in the game of football to score a touchdown in the red zone. Making, with my CFL Red Zone Rule, enforcement rule, because it'll be playing exciting 3-down football, if the 3rd down's needed, the ideal number of downs, by the way, the perfect number of downs to score a touchdown in the red zone with my CFL Red Zone Rule, 3 downs, not 4 downs, okay? So, it's a huge selling feature. And it's actually a bonus selling feature, okay? Because it's not in my 10 super feature and benefits, because I only came up with it when they thought about it, when they were talking about having to vote, or they did have a vote to go to 4 downs, okay? And abolish that 3-down game of football. And then I said, hold it. They'll never, if they adopt my CFL Red Zone Rule, they'll never have to have a vote to go to 4 downs. Because you know why? Our CFL 3rd down, there'd be a spotlight put on it, and a real signature put on a 3-down game of football. And it'll make our 3rd down more powerful, and a more important and more powerful down, a more entertaining and more exciting down than the NFL 4th down in the red zone. And you can take that to the bank, because 3 downs, if needed, with my CFL Red Zone Rule, is the ideal number of downs to score a touchdown, needed to score a touchdown in the red zone in a game of professional football. That's why. It will be a bigger down than the NFL 4th down in the red zone. You can take that to the bank. And that's how powerful my CFL Red Zone Rule is. So that's another one, another super feature, okay? We got to get the word out there. My CFL Red Zone Rule has to be known. And, the podcast thing, I was talking about earlier, I mean, it's going to take me some time to get that up and running, but I'm going to do it. Hopefully, going to get it I'll let you know when it's going to happen. The first one is, it's going to take me a while to get that because I'm dealing with my health and my injuries. So anyway, my health comes first, but as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be pushing my CFL Red-Zone Rule, okay? And the key is to back them in the corner. If this gets exposed to all the younger generation, all the NFL only fans, and that's the mass market sports fans in Canada, and the Jays fans, and the Leaf fans, and you know, those are the mass market sports fans in Canada. Those fans need to be exposed to my CFL Red-Zone Rule, and if they are, they'll be fascinated and captivated, and they'll be it'll gravitate them to go to CFL 3-down football games to see a brand new, super exciting brand of CFL 3-down football, and anticipate excitement like you wouldn't believe, and drama in the red zone with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule. That's why they'd be going. That's why they'd be going, because it's going to make our CFL 3-down game of football a way more attractive game, and more popular game of CFL 3-down football, and a more the innovation is phenomenal. It's going to be so much more innovative and full of drama, and so much more entertaining, and so much more exciting brand of CFL 3-down football ever in the history of the CFL 3-down football, and also probably in all of professional football, because of what I said. It'll be a more powerful down in the red zone, our third down if needed, with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, playing exciting 3-down, playing exciting 3-down football to score a touchdown, than the NFL 4-down game of football in the red zone, which is boring because it's too easy to score a touchdown with 4 downs with their tiny little end zone where you can underhand the ball, where they can run the ball every time. So it's just so predictable. It's a given. It's like our easy chip shot field goal in the red zone, or slightly outside depending on where the second down stop is made. It's a given. It's boring. It's monotonous. Okay? It's great that they put a touchdown TD up, but it's so easy. It's so easy. By the way, with 3 downs, with my third down needing my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule in the red zone, playing instead of 3-down football, that's the perfect number of downs, because it's not too many, and it's not like 2-down football stops like you see in the CFL, resulting in more easy chip shot field goals. It's 3 downs. That's a ideal perfect number of downs needed to score a touchdown. Not 4, not 2, repetitive 2-down football stops like in the CFL, and not 4 downs in the NFL, but 3 if needed with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule in the CFL in the red zone, and then you'll have a product to sell. And you need to allow the best available players to start and play in the CFL. You need both. That way, with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, allowing the best available players to start and play in the CFL, CFL 3-down football will be played at its highest level. Okay? And it will become probably the most popular brand of professional football in the world. But it needs those 2 components. It needs, okay, the Canadian ratio, like I'll get back to the owners and see, but they wanted the starting ratio eliminated because there's no other professional sport league success, and they're all successful professional sports leagues that has a guaranteed starting ratio of 7. It's going to go to 8, by the way, and I'll just explain this a little more, how bad it's going to be, because the owners come back and they want to put 5 on the table, reduce it by 2, and then they want to 6, and then of course the Canadian players are basically running the CFL with the Canadian ratio, okay, shoving it down their throats. They said, no, we're not going to ratify that. So they kept bowing to them and caving into them, and they said, we don't want the Canadian ratio touched. So they come up with this convoluted, ridiculous, naturalized American bunch of baloney, so-called ratio. I don't know what you call it. It's all benefit the Canadian players. It's basically a scam. It's a way to like scam the CFL fans and basically make our game even worse, and make more fans walk away from the CFL. It's that bad. It's unbelievable. Think of this. Okay. So in 2023, it's going from 7 to 8, but the 8th one could be a naturalized Canadian, naturalized American. Okay, take that 8th spot, but they got to be with that same CFL team 3 times with 1-year contracts. That's a tough deal. And when they want to go to the NFL, or 5 years in the league, right? That's another tough deal, right? And there's injuries. So, but there's and by the way, the top American players are starting anyway. The spots that are available to them. because of the Canadian ratio, and half the roster's got to be Canadian, guaranteed, with their Canadian roster ratio. Guaranteed, by the way. So this is ridiculous. And then in 2023, there could be 2 nationalized American players. Not naturalized, but naturalized American players. Isn't that ridiculous? Basically what I said, 3 years in one team or 5 years in the league. But there'll be injuries. And how many of those are you going to have? So they got the upper hand again. So it's going to be 8 starting Canadians, that's for sure. And then the next year, actually there's going to be the 8th starting Canadian, and then they could add 2 naturalized Americans, so there could be 3. But it's really 2, because although they insisted the 8th could be as well, which is another guaranteed handcuffing, dictating Canadian starter ratio number. It's going to 8. I mean, I get convoluted, I get all confused even thinking about this. It's so twisted. It's so ridiculous. It's so insane. It's ludicrous. But there's a catch to all this. There's 2 catches to all this, okay? And these nationalized Americans, okay? They only can play 49% of the game. They can't play a full game. And there's an incentive for GMs and coaches and CFL teams only to play, still to play the 8 Canadian players, which has gone up from 7 to 8 in the Canadian starter ratio. The handcuffing dictating Canadian starter ratio. Because you know why? Because the team that plays mostly Canadians and not these naturalized Americans, they get to pick, to get 2 picks. 2 teams get 1 pick each, I believe. I don't think it's 2 picks. Yeah, the 2 teams, they each get a pick in the 2nd round. Imagine, in the Canadian draft. Well, that's if there's any players left that aren't going to the NFL. And already there's injuries of the picks that were left that didn't go in the NFL and the Canadian draft. They're already having injuries with Saskatchewan Roughriders out for the year. It's unbelievable. And this is going to kill the CFL. It's all geared. It's all manipulated for the Canadian players and the Canadian ratio to still completely dominate and run the CFL and run it into the ground. And that's exactly what's happening. So the CFL, seriously, how are you going to be called a professional football league if you're not allowed the Canadian player, if you're allowing the Canadian players, okay, with their Canadian ratio to dominate the CFL, to run the CFL, and the NHL, by the way, TSN are also putting pressure on the CFL owners, but they caved in. They caved in on everything. Okay, give them everything and more. So how do you expect to be a professional, not only that, perceived, respected, but, okay, by the mass market, the fans you don't have, sports market fans, like the NFL only fans and the younger generation fans that you desperately need that you don't have, how are you ever going to grow your fan base? You're never going to grow it. How are you going to attract them with the Mickey Mouse little minor little tweak rules that you come in with, that ridiculous Mickey Mouse little hashmark rule? Right? It's going to make our game worse. It already is in the exhibition already games that the game that I watched. How are you going to ever going to be called a real professional football league when you bring in the most powerful rule and the best, the far superior rule like my CFL Red-Zone Rule? Okay, that's a game changer. That will be a blockbuster. Okay, it's a real winner, and it'll make our CFL 3-down game a lot bigger. I'm sorry, a lot bigger too, and because it'll have the biggest and the most innovative and the most exciting and most entertaining new CFL rule in the history of the CFL and in all professional football. It will. It'll be a winner. It'll be a blockbuster. It's a game changer. Okay, it's tailor-made for CFL 3-down football. It's a natural. Okay? It's staring the CFL right in the eye every single CFL 3-down game. When you see another boring 2-down football stop in the red zone, resulting in another boring, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goal that fans are booing and booing because they only go for it in the 1-yard line. Okay, on 3rd down, they don't go for it in the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, up to the 20. They don't. They kick another easy chip shot field goal in the CFL. That's what you see, which my CFL Red-Zone will eliminate completely. Okay, but this is so true. How are you going to be called a real professional CFL 3-down football league when you won't even allow the best players to be recruited and the best players to start and play like every other professional sports league does, including the Premier Leagues, by the way, okay? So the NFL, like I was saying, NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and MLS soccer, Premier League, all around the world, they don't have a guaranteed ratio that forces them to play a homegrown player. And those are their best they're the best homegrown players. Not like in the CFL where the best one's 25 and plus and counting every year and more being signed every year are going down the NFL. That's a whole CFL team. So like, what do you got left out? Come on, the Canadian ratio has to go. It's got to be abolished. It's got to be gone. It's got to be gone. And that's what the owners were on the right track. They wanted to eliminate the Canadian starter ratio. And by the way, the Canadian roster ratio of 21, that's got to be reduced dramatically down to like 5 maybe, and then they should be in the practice roster. Okay? And if the Canadian players want to have their own little, if they think, because they said, oh, if the Canadian ratio goes to CFL is out of business, they'll be gone, no one will go to the games. No one's going to the games now because of the Canadian ratio, and because of your Mickey Mouse little hashmark rules. That's more and more CFL are walking away. They need my SPYDER S. This is the most needed, most far superior new CFL rule ever in the history of the CFL. Most needed my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule that Mr. Vanso said they couldn't written a better script in the 2021 season. I'll go over that 51% I was going to get back to. And with lots of ammo to prove why my CFL Red-Zone Rule should be made part of a CFL 3-down game of football. And Far Iron Logi just endorsed it, like Steve Armitage did, got a stamp of approval. They're all sports, like Steve Armitage is a sports legend, and Rob Vanstone is a sports icon figure, and Far Iron Logi is a very popular, prominent CFL reporter and now broadcaster for CFL games, who endorses my CFL Red-Zone Rule. Far Iron Logi said he would vote for it. He came to a vote to make it part of CFL 3-down game of football. So yes, you fans got to find your mass market fans out there, sports fans in Canada, your NFL only fans, they only watch the NFL, and I can't blame you. And all the younger generation sports fans, the mass market sports fans are only watching the NFL. That if my CFL Red-Zone Rule was adopted, why is it adopted by the CFL? And they get rid of the Canadian starter ratio that's killing the CFL, okay? Just like 2 and outs and non-event easy chip shot field goals are killing the CFL in the red zone. Well, my CFL Red-Zone Rule will eliminate, and you bring it and get rid of the Canadian starter ratio. You allow the best players available to play, most talented, to be recruited and start and play in the CFL. And with my CFL Red-Zone Rule made part of a CFL 3-down game, then you got a product to sell. Then you're going to be a player. Okay? Then you're going to give the NFL a run for their money. And with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, okay, which would be a more powerful rule than their 4th down NFL 4-down football, okay, in the red zone, man, you got a product to sell, and you're going to be a player, and you'll see stadiums packed, okay? They're all rushing to see, anticipating in the red zone, the drama, the excitement, the invigorating plot that would create my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, not only offensively but defensively as well. And the betting, okay, it'd be lucrative. It'd be the most popular bet. And they'd just be waiting, and be a lot more bigger plays downfield too. Downfield, okay? Big bombs down. They get in the red zone because CFL teams that want to get in the red zone play with SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule. They play 73-down football. If the 3rd down's needed to score a touchdown, and they know that if they maintain possession of the ball and not forced outside, but by the defense would be a huge defensive play to prevent a touchdown from being scored in 3rd down, if needed, with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, and to be pushed outside in 3rd down to prevent my CFL Red-Zone Rule kick. So defensively, it's just as big as offensively too, how the drama and excitement in the red zone would be. Can you imagine my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule would be a way more powerful and way more exciting down the NFL 4th down in the red zone, and it would be the most innovative, the most exciting, and most entertaining rule ever adopted by the CFL, by the way, and the most significant and the biggest rule ever adopted by the CFL. And it's a game changer, like I said, and it'll be a blockbuster. And yes, it will pack all CFL stadiums and all markets too, all the major markets that make CFL stadiums soar and roar with the CFL, with my SPYDER CFL Red-Zone Rule, and with the best available players starting and playing in the CFL. And if you're Canadian, you got to make the team like the American players have to. And by the way, you'd be a lot more respected. And I want to see Canadian players start and play, but only the best that deserve to be there can actually make the team on merit, not be guaranteed because of a Canadian ratio, automatically given half the roster spots on the CFL team and 7 and now 8 guaranteed starting spots with your guaranteed handcuffing dictating Canadian ratio, right? No, no, no. You have to make the team. You think you're so good, you think you're so needed and so important that the CFL will go down if there's not a Canadian ratio, then prove you're good enough to play in the CFL and to start in the CFL. You got to make the team like the American players have to make the team, and then you'll be a lot more respected. And if I own the team, I'd be going after the best Canadian players, only the best Canadian players, and if they were all going to the NFL, then they would be on my team. Simple as that. And that's the problem with the CFL. They're a laughing stock. They're a laughing stock, and they're even more a laughing stock with this ridiculous okay, I'm stumbling over that word now. I said it earlier because I got a sore throat and I'm moving too fast. Convoluted, ridiculous ratio, or naturalized American ratio, 49% and something like that, and an incentive for them to play Canadian players for 8 guaranteed spots, so they get two teams get 1 pick each in the second round of the CFL draft. Come on, it's just a setup. And how are you going to get 3? How are you going to get 3 naturalized Americans without injuries? I mean, like I said, the best players, American players, are starting in the positions that they can start at because of the Canadian ratio. You know, I mean, they're sent home. Training camps. The better players are sent home because of the Canadian ratio, because of their passport, and they're automatically guaranteed their roster spot to Canadian players. Doesn't matter if they're good enough. Doesn't matter if they're an embarrassment on the field and have no business being on CFL field or on the CFL roster. Doesn't matter. And that's why my son says he's done. He's not going to renew his season tickets, and because of what they did to my rule. So listen, take care of Spider. Here comes Spider CFL Red-Zone Rule.